guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is entitled Brother-in-Law Hates Me but also thinks I'm going to get him a fancy job or a promotion. My SO's brother is trying to reconcile with his family after years of estrangement. The reasons behind it are irrelevant to this story and the explanation is too long to write out. For purposes of this post, let's just say that there was an innocent misunderstanding that caused a bad reaction from both brother-in-law and the family, but brother-in-law was ultimately to blame for the whole thing and had the very worst reaction possible. He admits that he was wrong, and the family owns their, much more understandable and well-intentioned in my opinion, mistakes. Everyone has apologized sincerely and they're working on the relationship. Each family member had been texting and later calling him. I only met him once briefly before the big blow-up, so we didn't have a relationship. He was invited to Xmas, which both SO and I were worried about, but we still went to his aunt's house. Everything went well between brother-in-law and the family, and I was so relieved and happy to see that. His wife and stepkids were very nice and seemed much more comfortable with us than brother-in-law. Everyone liked them right away. The only problem is that he hates me. We work in the same industry, but I'm several rungs above him and 5 years younger. He asked around about me after he found out what I do, and it turns out that I used to be brother-in-law's current boss's boss a few years ago. The thing is that I have a natural brother-in-law for which I take no credit since I'm simply lucky enough to have been born with it that makes my job much easier. There are only a few of us in our industry. He has to work harder for the same result. It's not fair, but it's also not my fault. This man spent 3 hours looking at me like I had just killed his whole family. My SO says he's insanely competitive and absolutely seething because he can't really say much to me without coming off like the asshole he really is. I probably make double his salary, which pisses him off as well. My SO isn't optimistic about this reconciliation and is worried that brother-in-law will hurt his mom and aunt again. He's convinced brother-in-law is crawling back because they're both in their 90s now and he's hoping for an inheritance. We bought his mom's house and there isn't much else to inherit. I don't know brother-in-law well enough myself to determine if he's actually that type of person, but also have no reason to doubt my SO. Brother-in-law told my SO that he wanted me to get him hired with one of my clients or recommend to his boss that he get a promotion and a raise. SO told him to ask me himself because, according to him, brother-in-law never will because that would be admitting that he needs my help and that he's beneath me. He would have to show me his work, which would be demeaning apparently. Let's hope he's right. I'm happy to have a, "Hi. How are you? Nice weather we're having. Bye," type of relationship because he's my SO's brother. But I'm not sticking my neck out for an asshole. Obviously, I will never say one word about work in his presence. Here's to hopefully seeing very little of him in 2023. The next story is titled Sister-in-Law Withholds Her Children for the Holidays because she refuses accountability for thefts. I have 3 nieces and a nephew I was quite close to. They frequently spent weekends and every special occasion with us in our home. As of writing this, I've not seen them for nearly a year. My sister-in-law and I were both employed as caregivers to elderly homebound individuals. Because our job experience we were taking turns assisting our grandfather-in-law with dementia. In March he received a credit card statement with over $21,000 in transactions. When confronted with the bill, sister-in-law admitted she had taken and used the credit card. On my next visit to assist him, I drove him to the sheriff's office to file criminal charges despite sister-in-law's promises to pay off the debt with the bank. Those charges are still pending. Sister-in-law was fired and blacklisted from working with elderly people and has cried that should be punishment enough. Once charges were filed, the children were no longer allowed to spend any time with me, my husband or our sons. She's run through several jobs and was recently fired from another one for, you guessed it, stealing. Just before Halloween I switched jobs and noticed my SS card was missing. I then received a new credit card in the mail that I had not applied for. Sister-in-law currently resides at my previous address, as we gave her the house where she currently lives. I often receive credit card offers in the mail and they've been sent to that address on numerous occasions. I was immediately suspicious but with nothing to go on, I let it go. On November 21 I received a credit alert that I had opened a PayPal credit account and paid another PayPal user $250. I contacted the creditor as well as local law enforcement. Sister-in-law is adamant she's had nothing to do with it. I'm still waiting on paperwork from the bank to verify her contact information on the application. She's dug in her heels and announced that the children are not allowed to spend any time with us for Christmas unless all charges against her are dropped. This will be the first Christmas my youngest son hasn't spent with his cousins. He's heartbroken. I'm just pissed. I don't understand how she musters the audacity. The next story is titled Choosing Beggar Demands Something I Just Bought After Helping Me Put My Groceries in the Car. I was at a store and putting my groceries away in my car when an old lady parked next to me offered to help. I said it was not necessary but thanked her for the offer, but she insisted and started helping anyway. I thanked her and offered to help with her groceries as well, but then she started demanding that I give her this hat that I got for my friend's Christmas present all of a sudden. I told her about it and she said that she deserves it more than my friend because she has dementia and no husband. I said no once again calmly and began to enter my car to leave, but she continued to yell at me and attempt to take it from my trunk. Eventually some employee must have caught wind of this because she was asked to leave by security or something and promptly left. The security guy or whoever he was apologized on behalf of the store and promised it would never happen again, which was a nice gesture. The next story is titled Airport Charities. Last week I was coming home from the capital city after a very hectic couple of days there. I reached the airport pretty early because I'm an anxious duck, and I was roaming around, checking what's where. That's when these two men in a tiny stall waved at me. They had a very cute animal mascot. I went up to check, and before I could even introduce myself properly, they started telling me about their organization and the work they do. It's good work, I am passionate about the cause. But I also do not have a lot of money. After a 15-minute long lecture, they asked me if I would like to donate something. I am feeling quite bored at this point, because yes, while I came here willing to donate, I did not come for 15 minutes of speech about things I already know. I offer a couple $100 in my country's currency. And they sheepishly smile and say that the lowest donations they accept start from $1,500. Great. My couple hundred were saved. The next story is titled Am I the A-hole for refusing to let my neighbor borrow my vehicle? I am a single parent working 2 jobs with a special needs child who is being homeschooled. My closest family lives 6 hours away in another state. I don't have anyone I can go to for assistance with things at home or with driving me anywhere. One of my jobs requires I have a working vehicle. I make home visits to clients throughout the day and need to be able to drive to, from those appointments. Plus the typical needs for a vehicle, groceries, pharmacy, medical appointments, laundromat, etc. Everything that needs to be done to care for myself and for my child is handled by myself. I recently purchased a new vehicle. My previous vehicle was one I owned for 12 years and was on its last leg. It needed repairs that were going to cost more than the vehicle was worth, so I just continued driving it without those repairs until it died, saving in the meantime to buy a newer, more reliable vehicle. I've had this new vehicle now for 1 week and don't yet have all the paperwork up to date on it. And even if I did have all the paperwork up to date, I wouldn't want to let someone else drive it. My neighbor is someone who frequently relies on me for rides. She had a vehicle that she allowed to be repossessed last year when she failed to make payments on it and has consistently asked for my assistance getting her places ever since. She has a husband and a 20-year-old daughter, but neither of them drive. Her husband doesn't have a license and her daughter is disabled. Her husband works at Walmart and always rides his bike to, from work or calls an Uber. She has cancer and has had hip surgery but will still often walk places if I'm not available to give her a ride when she wants one. I don't have a problem helping with rides when I am available to do so, but I don't like or trust my neighbor. In the time I've been giving her rides, she's had me drop her off at a drug dealer's house, pick up a friend that crashed their vehicle DUI, and exchange drugs with that friend in my vehicle. After that ride I told her I would not pick up friends for her again and that I don't want drugs in my vehicle and will not take her anywhere but work or grocery stores. Today, I'm sick with the flu. It's raining hard outside. I canceled my appointments and stayed home, and I told my neighbor I couldn't give her a ride this morning because I felt too sick. She asked to borrow my vehicle. I told her no. Am I the asshole? Comment said not the a-hole. And stop catering to her demands. She's taking advantage of your generosity. And especially AHole behavior involving drugs. You could have your vehicle seized as forfeiture if it was involved in drug activity. Another comment said, not the AHole. And do you really think you are? No wonder you are a free Uber for your neighbor. Do you let other people take advantage of you too? Please stand up for yourself and stop giving rides to this woman. She is putting you and your family in danger by mixing you up in her drama, drugs, DUI. And definitely don't ever let her borrow your car. The next story is titled, Can't Behave Yourself in Traffic? I'll nullify your free parking privilege. Not far from me, there is a parking garage in the middle of a popular street-level shopping district. Bakeries, restaurants, hardware stores, greengrocers, butchers, fishmongers, cleaners, bars, booksellers, head shops, cannabis stores, liquor stores, banks, pet supplies. There's a supermarket, a post office, a musical instrument store, etc. This parking garage charges non-trivially, like €2.50 for every 30 minutes parking time. However, you can get 45 minutes free parking by entering your car's plate number and your parking stall number on the parkometer near each pedestrian exit. One fine day in the main street of this district, I happened to be in front of a toddler behind the wheel of an expensive luxury SUV. I wasn't dawdling or anything. When the lights turned green, I promptly went ahead, and I kept up with the speed of traffic. But on the other hand, I stopped for pedestrians crossing. All that brassed off HRH Lord High toddler, who aggressively tailgated me, beamed me with his super bright high beam lights, honked his horn, kept trying to unsafely go around me either in the bike lane or in the opposite lane, revving his engine to make pop-bang sounds with the exhaust. I have since learnt this is the result of petrol deliberately sprayed into the exhaust chamber, to simulate the exhaust noise of old carbureted race cars from decades ago. So, wasting oil and creating CO2 just to annoy people. Isn't that nice? Etc. Eventually it became apparent we were both headed for the parking garage. More honking and high beaming and aggression from behind as I waited for a safe gap to turn across traffic and pedestrians into the entrance. Once inside the garage, I selected a space and pulled into it, thus getting out of his way. As he drove past behind me, he gunned his engine and leaned on his horn, I guess to drive home whatever he thought his point was. I collected my shopping bags, locked my car, stepped up to the parkometer, and entered his plate number and one of the empty, but reserved, off-limits for general parking, stall numbers. The thing of it is any plate number is allowed one free 45-minute park-up per day. So, when he went to get his own 45 minutes free parking, he would be rejected, maximum daily free parking exceeded. Select a paid parking option. Then I entered my own plate number and the stall number I'd parked in, got my 45 free minutes validated, went up to street level and did my errands, returned to my car, and drove away. Petty, but satisfying. The next story is titled Revenge from Beyond the Grave. My sister-in-law, Sil, died suddenly on Thanksgiving this year. Her memorial was set for this past week. Her sons put on a very respectable event for about 50 people. Sil was divorced in the 1970s. No contact with ex-husband. During the testimonial part, one of her closest friends who only knew her post-divorce gave a short speech. The friend related how Sil's ex drank a lot, and it was the cause of their divorce. Friend then told what Sil did as the final act in her marriage. Sil rearranged all of the furniture. Her husband came home after midnight stinking drunk, and unable to maneuver through the house. Everyone had a good laugh at this brilliant passive-aggressive behavior. What the friend giving the testimonial didn't realize is that the ex-husband was attending the memorial. Sil sure got him back from beyond the grave. The next story is titled, Hey, speaking of fruity. I work at a 125-room business hotel in northern Minnesota. We have contracts with a variety of construction companies for discounted room rates, and because I always work third shift, I'm usually the one checking these guys in. So I've gotten to know a lot of them really well, and we've got a good bond. I took a week off and 3 of them went to my manager concerned that I'd quit. One of these guys, Brad, is some kind of engineer in his 60s. If you're from the upper Midwest, you're familiar with the type. Rangy, windburnt, a couple sad wisps of gray hair. Grew up in a small town in the middle of nowhere, stolid, friendly, not super expressive. He always checked in on Mondays, and at first he irritated me because he always paid with cash for his $600 stay. But I warmed up to the old guy. He would always take a smoke outside with my coworker when she was there, and sometimes offered me a cig even though he knew I didn't smoke. Once, he brought up a bottle of some Canadian whiskey to the desk and asked if I'd like it. I love whiskey, so I took it, and we got started talking first about how you absolutely need the egg white in whiskey sours, then about other liquor preferences. I said, well, look. If I want to get drunk now, vodka. But if I want to enjoy my drink? Old-fashioned, whiskey sour, or something fruity. I love fruity drinks. He laughed, cleared his throat, and said, hey, speaking of fruity. Can I ask you something? At the time, I had neon purple hair, with my fingernails painted to match, and large rainbow earrings. So I braced myself for an extremely awkward question about my sexuality. What's up, man? Well, he coughed, you see. My nephew, he's 20, about your age, well. He just came out to the family. I nodded, prompting him to keep talking. And, well. I love the kid. Is there anything that you guys that I should, do for him? I cocked my head. Would I mean? Well, I mean you guys, Should I say anything to him? I mean, I doubt you'll get him to change his mind. No, he said, face flushing, not like that. Like. Is there a card? I was thinking I'd maybe bake the kid a cake? Bake. Got him. A cake? Yeah, a cake. With rainbow icing. And on the top I'd write, Uncle Brad loves you, or something. So he knows I love him no matter what. Something like that. I struggled to choke down laughter. Brad, I'm not sure the cake is necessary. Just keep treating him like you always have, okay? No card? No, dude. Oh. Brad paused and stared at our shelf of Doritos. I've always made fun of him for not having a girlfriend. Can I start making fun of him for not having a boyfriend? You absolutely can. Cool. He's about your age. Nice kid. Maybe I could. Brad, are you trying to set me up with your nephew? Well. Aren't you single? Yes, very recently. How long were you two together? Long enough to get engaged. Oh. Yeah, I said, desperately trying not to laugh. Did you need to talk about anything else? Nah, no. Thanks buddy, enjoy the whiskey. He left, and I went into the office and howled with laughter until I cried. To this day that's one of my favorite guest interactions. The next story is titled Body Shaming Me? I'll let you all taste your own toxicity. So, I'm from SE Asia, where it's very common for relatives to comment on your appearances aka body shaming especially towards their nieces. Some of my aunts really likes to comment on my weight. My BMI is categorized as overweight. But I'm actively trying to lose weight by switching to healthier food. I already lost 4 kgs, 8.8 pounds. So far and my current BMI is only 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds, away from normal weight. Every time there were family gatherings, these aunts would always surround me and said, "Wow op, are you aware you're getting even fatter every time I see you? You're not that pretty so getting fat makes you look even uglier. You should start dieting because no guy likes ugly girls, let alone ugly fat girls." On one of the family gatherings, I already had a bad day thus my mood isn't the greatest, then they surrounded me like vultures and start yapping the same crap. I got so angry that I snapped and said, "Wow aunties, upon closer look, you all actually got fatter as well," then walked away. They were so shocked they all fell into silence. I know it's not nice to do the same crap as they did, because what makes me different than them if I also commented on their appearances as well? But after receiving those reactions from them, I committed that as long as they were the first to initiate the body shaming, then I'd say the same crap they threw at me. They told me I got fatter. I also said they got fatter as well told me I'm ugly? Them as well no guy likes me. They neither. This repeated for a few more times within a few family gatherings. Then suddenly, I'm not fat nor ugly anymore. The next story is titled A Warm Fuzzy Story for You All. I'm not a front desk worker, but I wanted to share a story about a standout team. My wife and I had arrived at the hotel right after our wedding. It was late, we were exhausted, and my wife had a bad head cold. The front desk staff were nice as they checked us in and got us to our room. Once checked in, I went out in search of a vending machine, just something to eat and snack on, since we barely got to eat at our wedding. There were none to be found anywhere. I went back downstairs and found there wasn't any sort of convenience store in the lobby, and none within easy walking distance that were open. This was in the downtown district of a major city, so it wasn't exactly safe either. The front desk staff apologized, and I asked if they had any complimentary water I could take back. A few minutes later, one of them emerged from their personal break room with an armful of chips and cookies and several bottles of water. They congratulated us and made a very tiring night into one I'll never forget. Of course, I left a note with the manager about the outstanding service. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.